If you were to read Donald Trump's new op-ed in Newsweek, you would think that President Biden single-handedly inflated the American economy and Trump will stop inflation the moment he is sworn in if he wins. Of course, that ignores some very basic facts. First, economies all over the world dealt with inflation in the aftermath of the pandemic. You cannot lay that on the feet of Joe Biden. Two, inflation has been slowing recently. And third, and perhaps most importantly, as New York Magazine points out, Donald Trump's proposed economic policies would likely massively increase inflation. So let's get into it with David Gura, business correspondent for NPR and dear friend of our show. David, let's start with immigration. What would happen to the agriculture industry if Donald Trump gets his wish and puts undocumented immigrants in detention centers?
So this policy, in addition to being kind of morally egregious, would be something that would be inherently inflationary. You would have such a shortage of labor, it would be bound to raise prices for people all across this country. There wouldn't be enough people to do these jobs, and we'd see, as a result of that, less demand for goods and services. So all of that would compound. It would be just an incredibly difficult thing for the country to go through. And like so much of what Donald Trump has done and proposed, it just lacks nuance. The case of sort of all the tenets of the economic plan, so much as he's hatched one here that he would put into place were he to be elected. Again, immigration is one facet of it. Tax cuts is another, again, done without nuance and kind of across the board in a way that would certainly put the country in a worse position in terms of growth and debt. And then trade policy as well. He's proposed this kind of across the board 10% tariff on all imports. That found to be inflationary as well, Stephanie.
I want to stay on that for a second. He's got this idea, you know, that people love to hear. He's going to put this 10% tariff on all foreign-made goods. Do people not realize that would obviously raise prices? When Donald Trump was making shirts and shoes and everything else he produced, he made all that stuff overseas because he knew that you could make it and sell it the cheapest.
Absolutely. That's the sort of motivating philosophy behind it. And sort of what he's proposing here, again, is across the board tariffs done not to target any particular industries. And of course, we saw this during the first term. We saw him target soybeans. We saw him target steel. And all along, he maintained that the American people weren't going to bear the brunt of those tariffs. In fact, that wasn't the case. This was something that Americans did have to bear the brunt of. So again, this is kind of a blunt, unnuanced approach to trade. And as a result of this, we would just see higher prices on all of these goods. We would see more inflation. And so going back to what you said just a moment ago, you know, the economic policy that he's talking about here kind of forgets the fact that we have been through this unprecedented mass pandemic that had such a dislocating effect, not just on the U.S. economy, but economies around the world. Hard to ignore that, hard to ignore just the progress that we've seen this country make and other countries make over the last few years as well. And I think the U.S. has positioned itself much better than a lot of these other Western economies in reacting to inflation. As you said, Stephanie, was something that was happening not just here in the U.S., but around the world.
Do you think people realize that? Because as we all face the pandemic, the United States came out of the pandemic from an economic perspective faster and stronger than almost any country out there.
I don't think that everyone understands that. And I was at this conference today in New York that our friend Andrew Ross Sorkin from CNBC and the New York Times put on. And the Vice President, Kamala Harris, is one of the people whom he interviewed during the course of that event today. And he kind of asked her about this disconnect between the economic progress this country has made and seen over these last few years and how Americans feel about the economy. And what she said in response to that was so fascinating to me because I think it's at the heart of what we're talking about here. And that is, we're talking about macroeconomic indicators. There are these real signs of progress that we have seen. Unemployment incredibly low. We have seen pretty strong growth. We've seen inflation come down significantly from where it was a year ago, 2 years ago. But it doesn't connect, she said, with the heart, the experience, and the feelings of the American people. And I thought that was such a well-crystallized way of saying this, and certainly, you know, gives us the contours of the challenges that this administration is going to face as she and President Biden go on the campaign trail to try to make the case that there has been this progress. It might not be manifest in all of our daily lives. Yes, many things are still expensive, but step back and look at the progress relative to sort of where we were a year or 2 years ago.